Welcome to the New Paradigm Podcast. My name is Morten Hake, and this is the place where we'll talk about the stuff that's going to make you remember who you really are. Let's go. Welcome to the New Paradigm Podcast 32. It's been a minute. I've been taking years break, and finally I'm back. I love these conversations. So I had to, follow my heart and step up and take action and invite Dominic to my first podcast in a long time. And me and Dominic, I think we met first time during Rudiger and Jules. They had some kind of online program, practitioner coaching, 3 principles type of thing a few years ago. And I just remember your wisdom and energy that I got curious. I don't remember exactly what you said because it doesn't matter, but I just remember the feeling you come from, or rather the understanding that you come from, and that you're a wise man that I want to talk more with. And I think that you can bring value to the table to whoever is listening. And I'm curious myself. You're a certified coach. You work with executives and teams, right? And you're also involved in the 3 principles community, or have been, or are, and you're also involved in Abraham Hicks community, right? So from knowing that stuff, and I'm curious to philosophize and just share thoughts with you, and welcome.
Thank you. I was thrilled to get the invitation. I remember too meeting you, and the details are off, because I think you're right. I think it was in that session or where I first came across, and we may have connected more than once on a webinar or someplace where we saw each other, and then of course online, right? So then on course online, you sort of see some, because we're friends online and stuff, so we see some things. So I didn't even know the detail, but I just knew that as I saw you, there was also like a particular feeling, and there were some things you were doing. Particularly the things that stood out to me had to do with you were making things happen, creating things. I saw you I don't remember where it was. You were in a country somewhere and building something, doing something. And so this for me is inspiring. That to me, I get really curious when it comes to creation and creating and all of that. There's a lot of interest in that. So I was thrilled to get this invitation and to sort of be having this conversation. I also think you said something important at the beginning. So yeah, I'm a certified coach and I do all that stuff, and I'm grounded. I speak a lot from 2 strong grounded teachings, right? Sydney Banks, the teachings of Sydney Banks is massive. And then the teachings of Abraham Hicks are really strong in terms of, I'm a student of both. And I see such power and harmony in the both. They're just pointing us to kind of, in a beautiful way, to the whole of what we are, to all that we are. They point us to all that we are. They both do it with different language and different stuff, and I just found it's more resonant for me as I kind of go in all of it. But what I wanted to say, I think it's important at the beginning, is you said something. Now I've said it, where we said, oh yeah, met you, and I don't really remember what you said. I just remember a beautiful feeling, or some kind of a feeling is what I remember. This would be really good for any listeners right now. So anyone listening right now, we are not going to say anything on this podcast that is going to be worth remembering at all. So relax. You can just listen. There is nothing we're saying that's of any value. You do not need to kind of be taking notes or listening.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, not at all. But what will happen, and here's the powerful, so some people kind of go, well, then what's the use? I'll tune out now. What's the use of listening then if you're not going to say anything of any value? Well, this feeling bit is huge because something will happen. We're going to chatter and say a bunch of stuff, but then we're going to say something and a feeling will come like, oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Right. So something will, and what that means is our chatter, within our chatter, something resonated with you. So, by the way, don't blame us for that, because when it resonated with you, that means it is something true that you know already. And our chatter somehow activated some truth that you already know. That's what you'll get out of listening to this podcast, is you will get grounded in something you already know to be true. It will not be coming from us, but it will resonate within you. And when it does, that was the value of this podcast. You can forget anything that we said. None of it's useful. I promise you.
Yeah, it's like a remembrance, right? That's why they call it remembrance. It's very interesting. I wanna dive deep immediately. Why not? Like, well, we started before. I could say in the green room or whatever. We started talking about Jenny and Dave's surprise birth that I was reading through the Facebook post that you posted, and then you said, yeah, I mean, we both agreed that that was a miraculous story, and I can't wait to see how that kid grows up, being a miracle. And then we're like, well, that goes for all of us. And then you said something like, it's all miraculous. Like we're swimming in miracles. And then I was like, yes. And then and I was like, well, what about the wars? That's the normal. Like, can we touch on that immediately? Like, what's going on? Personally, I don't watch the news. I just met a lady who makes art of the news, so I got a new perspective of maybe I can start watching news again, but looking at how can it be funny or how can we make it into art. But in general, I don't watch news because I don't want to waste my time on it. And but at the same time, there's a certain. Sometimes I feel helplessness when I go to the gym and I'm on the treadmill and there's like big screens, like, propaganding, like brainwashing everyone on the treadmill, like run sheeps and listen to all this negativity in the world that's going on. And they always promote things that are close to you, always promote things that are dramatic. They always promote things that are dangerous, and it's all, negativity. So in fear of making this like a very negative podcast, it probably won't be, but what, if everything is miracles, what's that?
Yeah. What a great question. My God. We just in the deep end. We're in the deep end. Let's go. Right. Where to go? Let's see. Let's just say something about, because oftentimes people will hear this conversation. Here's where the misunderstanding goes. They go, oh yeah, they're just talking about stick your head in the sand. Put your head in the sand and you go into your high vibe positivity thing and just ignore the reality, right? Mm-hmm. So we are not saying that. That's not what we're talking about. In fact, what we're saying is increase your awareness. The expansion of your consciousness into inclusion of all of it is the direction of this thing. And by the way, if you're putting your head in the sand and, not doing this, from a reaction to the thing, then you're just including it. But you're just against it. instead of with it, right? So we're talking about expansion of consciousness. The where we get to is an ability to hold all of it. We can hold all of it and be at peace. We can hold all of it and be in peace. So I just want to say that, but I want to add in, there are strong intentions everywhere. Unique intentions. Legitimate intentions, all in the intention of whatever these perspectives are at. So if you are media, broadcast, news, there is strong intention to gather up the largest audience you can so that you can achieve advertising rates and revenues that are going to be massive, right? So grab the largest audience you can and hold it for as long as you can. And then the advertising revenue becomes huge.
Right.
When you make a choice to not watch that, is a very different choice to, I'm going to put my head in the sand. This is a choice. So someone figured out what triggers everyone, and then by focus, we can only focus. There's a lot going on in the world. A lot is going on in the world. But and here's the deal. You cannot put your head in the sand. But you also do not have the capacity to take in all that is going on in the world. You must focus. You must focus. If you were infinite intelligence and you were pure consciousness, you could simply be with all that is. But you are that, of course. But there are two perspectives in that. There is the perspective of all of that can take it all in. But you are also a focused, finite perspective of all that is. And that perspective is focused. And it is focused and the focus allows for things. It allows for experience. I can say more, but it allows for the expansion of all that is. The expansion of all that is can only expand through every one of its finite perspectives. This is going deeper.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I'm with you.
So here you are, and now you're in the world, and part of your job, it's not even a job. It's just how you are constituted in the finite perspective. It's not a job. You're constituted in a focused way. You cannot take it all in. So part of it is focus. So now you find out that there are some people with other intentions, and what they're doing is focusing. And they are focusing. They can take specific feelings of things and feed it to you and bring it to you. They can add dramatic music to it. They can tell a narrative around it that will have a certain feeling in it. And that they will tell you now both what happened and how you might want to feel about it.
Right.
And you're saying, I choose not to do that. I choose not to engage in that. Yeah. And that is a legitimate choice when you have a different intention than that. Because what they've selected, if you imagine 8 billion people yesterday. Just picture, now take 24 hours. How many minutes, right? Times 8 billion. Now you have some sense of what happened yesterday. Right. You get a sense of what happened yesterday. You're not even counting now other points of consciousness. The animals on the planet. You're not counting minerals, plants. Take the consciousness yesterday and take the the experience of consciousness yesterday. Now you have a sense of what happened yesterday. And so far, we're only on this planet. A lot yesterday in experience. And then someone says, I am going to take this many minutes of this much of these 300 people or 4,000 people, right? 4,000 times this many minutes. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick and choose. I'll take this 30 seconds, those 2 minutes, and this part, and add that all up. I'm going to string the whole thing together in 30 minutes. And I will present to you what happened yesterday. And this is what happened. And by the way, if you don't listen to me, you're just putting your head in the sand. You're just putting your head in the sand. You're not listening to me about what happened yesterday. You are unwilling to face reality. And I say I don't want to face your reality because you don't choose the reality that I face. There is a lot of reality that is going on, and I am well equipped. I came focused with my own intention. I did not come to focus my intention according to what anyone else thinks that I should be focused on, what the right way to be focused is. And if I was a good person, what I would be focused on versus what I wouldn't be focused on and on and on and on, a conditioned focus, right? So that's a bit of what I wanted to say about how you opened.
Yeah, love it. Okay, would you say that you come with a focused intention, and if you kind of stay true to that intention and congruent, I guess authentic, then the rest will pulverize, or you become that? Or I mean, if we are, consciousness experience itself in a human form, if we are everything and all at once, I guess that what happens inside, or what looks to be inside the body, or the action figure walking around, is really what is happening out there. Or
let's see this. It's technically, and by the way, we're just using words, so it's just too hard to write.
Wrap it. It's hard to wrap it.
We're using words. We're pointing at something. If anyone hears a word and they don't think that word is right or whatever, they can, don't worry. But if you can just get a sense, if you can get a sense or feel of something we're pointing to, is all that we're asking. We're pointing to something. We're trying to, we see this thing, you see this thing, I see this thing, and then we try to say it's it. And we use metaphors mostly. We're using metaphors mostly. And someone says, no, it doesn't work that way. You're absolutely right. It doesn't work the way I said it. It doesn't actually work anyway. But I'm struggling here because I'm trying to point to this. Right? So we just got to give some room for this. So you, when we say you focus, or there's a focus, let's do it like this. Sydney Banks said, there is the energy of all things, which some call God. And if you could use that word if you want, you could also say all that is. So I think we could agree there. There is all that is. It's pretty hard to argue with that, isn't it? All right. So far, if we said there is only all that is, it would kind of be hard to argue.
Yeah.
So far, we could just stay in all that is. The problem is you can't say anything more. There's nothing to talk about, so we're going to have to keep talking.
Make some problems to solve it.
Right. So there is all that is. And this is really what the three principles that Sydney Banks distinguished. He couldn't stay there either, right? Because he could not say anything. So here's what it is. So now we can distinguish what the three principles, as he distinguished, were mind, consciousness, and thought. So we kind of can follow how he got there, right? So the only truth there is all that is. It's fair. What is all that is? Oh, it's this. No, that's a thing. It's not that. You're right. You're right. You're right. It isn't. It isn't. It isn't.
Yeah.
So then it's all that is. Well, what is it? Well, then a formless energy. It's a formless energy. Now, then, when it comes to you and I, what he said was, you are a microscopic aspect of the energy of all things. So there is an energy of all things, but how do we explain you? Right? Yeah. If there's an energy of all things, how do we explain you? Well, then you must be, logically, you must be an aspect of this energy of all things. There's no other way to explain you. Because if we tried to say that, well, you're different. Oh, so then that's not the energy of all things. Because there's the energy of all things, but then there's Morton. And then there's Dominic. And then there, right? So that doesn't work.
No.
So there's an energy of all things, but somehow you're here. So you are an aspect of that same formless energy. Mm. Well, you kind of made that up, because if you say energy, then how did you just divide it into some aspect called Dominic? Because there is no division with energy. Especially, it's a formless energy. There is no division. Okay. But let's back up a second. So that energy of all things, which we now know, is actually the essence or energy of all things. That's pretty intelligent. Because when I look at you or me, there's a lot going on here. There's breathing and digest. Like, this is complicated stuff, right? So now when we say this energy of all things, this has a lot of intelligence in it. In fact, if we looked around and we start to say what this essence is that is in all things, we are talking about mind. We are talking about an infinite intelligence, the intelligence that is in anything, all things. There is no thing not made, infused with this infinite intelligence. Okay, well, that's kind of cool. But so far, all we've distinguished is that, but nothing's happening if you leave it. Well, it's not dead, There's this energy of all things. There's not a dead thing. It's alive. It is, and when I say alive, what I mean is it's an awareness. This thing is aware, right? It is conscious. So it's not like you're sitting around with a bunch of intelligence, a data in an energy. It is a conscious energy, second principle. So you have an energy of all things, infinite intelligence, mind that is conscious, mind that is aware. Oh, okay, I get that. But aware of what? What do you mean it's aware? Like, it's aware of what? Well, let's be logical here. What is there to be aware of? All that is. All that is the only thing you could be aware of. All right, well then it's an infinite intelligence that is conscious, that is aware of all that is. It is all that is aware of itself. It is consciousness conscious of itself. It's the only thing going on here. Okay, that sounds totally boring, all right? Like... Like there's only an infinite intelligence of all things that is aware and conscious, and it's aware and conscious of all that is. Like that just sounds total. Okay, that sounds like nothing's happening. Well, you're right. Nothing is happening.
Right.
There is nothing happening.
Yeah.
But let me tell you a third principle. The way that all that is aware of all that is.
Say again?
The way that all that is conscious of all that is. In fact, let's look at this. If you say that all that is conscious of all that is, then it must be that all that is conscious of all aspects of all that is. There must be an awareness of all of its aspects. All aspects of all that is must be conscious, must be aware. There can be we're discerning the nature of all that is, and every aspect within it must share in its nature. Because so far we haven't pulled it apart. We haven't taken one part out from another part. So what we've got is all that is aware only of all that is, which means it's aware of all aspects of itself. All aspects of all that is. Now, wait a minute. How does it focus? How does it get to an aspect of itself? You just said there's only all that is. Yes, it's an awareness that is able to focus. It has a capacity of focus. And focus is the third principle, which is thought. Thought is focused consciousness. Thought is focused awareness. And so as all that is aware of all that is and able to focus. Now, wait a minute. You said it can only be aware of all that is. Yes. So as it focuses on aspects of itself, it is still only aware of all that is. Didn't change its focus. So God knows itself through every aspect of itself. God can focus on any aspect of itself, and that aspect of itself can know itself. It's all consciousness. It's all awareness. And it's a play. It's a movement of this energy. And so in the play or movement of this energy, in a way, this is who you and I are. This is who we are. We are a movement of this energy. And when we try to fix ourselves, hold, fix. This is who I am. This is who I am, and I am not that, and I am not this, and I'm not that war. And this is who I am, right? You can only do that right away. You will create a resistance, and you will create a separation that is not there. It's not there. It's not true.
Right. Can we ever experience no resistance though?
Never.
So this longing for improvement, I just noticed that I'm catching myself trying to figure out what's right and wrong, Dominic.
Oh well, but
you know
no,
what I mean?
but yeah, and that's okay. You can look at anything from a starting point of what's right and wrong, and then we can go to look more deeply into it, and we will see the truth in it. Both. So don't worry about that. Don't dissuade yourself. Just go say this is better than that.
Yeah. So yeah, because I was wondering, like, this longing for improvement. What is that? Why is that? Is it useful to spend my time? Well, apparently it is, because I go to the gym every morning. That's useful for me, apparently. But you know, there's this like there's this balance, it seems like, or I don't know. Sometimes in life, I'm lost, and it feels like I'm trying to fix something that's broken. Other times, it feels like it's an expansive, fun way of just becoming greater and feeling better and expanding and creating. And it seems like I
Yeah.
have absolutely no control over those waves and ebbs and flows, particularly on a large scale. So actually, I personally sometimes struggle to commit, because I have experienced so many times that I throw some balls up in the air, and then there's the werewolves come out, and I am a completely different person who, have completely different resources, or that's how I feel, in managing the balls that I threw. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is great, because you see that's a beautiful description of this human finite perspective, right? Nothing wrong there, and now we're going to walk our way through, because there's nothing wrong within it. It's working exactly as it's created, as
It
it's
is,
designed
right?
and intended.
Yeah, that's correct.
Exactly as it's intended. Nothing going wrong. And here's what's essential in all of this. There is only expansion. We are in a existence, in a reality that is only expanding. And expansion is its nature. Now, how does this even make sense? Because we just said that there is all that is. But when you talk about expansion, and now look at this improvement and becoming better. Look at this. You just said there's all that is. That made sense to me, that there's all that is. But now if you talk about expansion, then all that is has become something it was not. Well, then all that is not all that is. That can't be. That makes no sense at all. How could there be an expansion of all that is? Because the only way to expand, if you were to add stuff to it, if you added stuff to this, so then you're telling me all that is not all that is. It's like less than it is. How else would you add? Like, what is it you would add to it when this is all that is? Same with you, right? We're gonna follow this. So if you do self-improvement and growth, personal growth, you're doing personal growth, you're adding stuff that's not you. You're trying to acquire it, to put it on, to build it up, right? That's either what we just said was not true, what we pointed to, or you are describing something that defies the nature of all that is. But all that is expanding. That is its nature. It's expanding. So here's the thing, though. It expands to become more of all that is. All that is an eternal expansion, becoming more of all of that is. God is eternally becoming more of itself. God expands, becoming more of all that God is. Were it not for that, God would not be infinite. Infinite implies expansion.
Then it also implies contraction, right?
And here's the thing. There is no regression in the universe. All that is God will never be less than it is. All that is eternal. Eternal, infinite intelligence. Eternal, infinite, eternal. All that is can never be less than all that is. Because if that were to happen, then God is less today than when it was before. And that can never be. So that can never be. There is no regression in the universe. There is only expansion. And now when you say that there is only expansion, you are speaking of a phenomenon that is only constructive and positive in nature, never destructive, never less than it is, only ever more than it is. Only ever expansion and more, not more acquiring, more of itself expressed. Who you are is an infinite and eternal potential and possibility. And when you grow and expand, you become more of yourself. You are not becoming something you are not. You become more of yourself. And so and when you allow that, because you can only allow it, you cannot achieve it. How do you achieve being you? You're already you. You're already you. How do you achieve it? One day I'm going to be me. You're already you. It cannot be achieved. Right? So for you to be you is only allowed. It is not achieved. So if I say that today, now we're talking to this feeling of desire. I don't know, I just don't feel right and I don't feel satisfied and I somehow think there's more. I think there's more. Well, you better think there's more. You are one speck of all that you are. You bet there's more, right? But you bet there's more. But if you attempt to go acquire it, to go do it, you're misguided. You misunderstand this, and you'll never get there. No matter how much you go to acquire it and go chase it and go find it and add it on to you, right? Because you sense that something's missing. You're right, something. You're right to feel this desire of expansion, but the desire you feel is that all that you are wanting to be more of all that it is through this speck of itself that is you. That's the feeling you get. That's the feeling. Is God wants to live through you even more than it is living through you. Wants to contribute, wants to make a difference, wants to love more, wants to create through you more than it is already. And as you allow it, you allow your own expansion, becoming more of who you really are and becoming more of all that you are.
Yeah, because my words would be, trying would be in the opposite direction of letting it happen.
Totally. How do you try to be you?
Right.
It's just like, that's just one of these circle things, like a dog chasing its tail.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Dominic trying to be Dominic. It's like silly. It's like silly. You're like, we would laugh. And this is by why, when you go in this direction, what happens is laughter. You like laughing. You're laughing at yourself. You're like, once you start to see things, all you can do is laugh because it was so funny what you're doing.
Yeah. And it's laugh of truth in a way. It's like letting go. It's like release or something. It's like, oh, I tried to open the door in the wrong direction for a long time. And then finally I had a realization, or I let go. I pull it in the right direction, and it was so easy.
Just yesterday I did it. Just yesterday I was at a client. Exactly that. I can't get in. I can't get in. Yeah, that's because you need to
You
push
mean
the door.
really, like physically,
like literally happened to me yesterday. And here you are sharing that example. Right? Literally happened to me. Yeah, I go out. I go to the washroom. I come back in. I can't get in anymore.
That's ridiculous.
Like
That's
literally
funny.
happened. Yes.
Oh, that stuff happens all the time now. These small synchronicities, serendipities moments where like you say the same thing, or someone says the word you were gonna say, or you were thinking about someone and they call you. All these things seem to be, I don't know if they always happened and I started seeing them a few years ago, or yeah, it doesn't matter, but maybe, or if they started happening more. But that's definitely proof, or like yeah, I'd say proof that everything's connected more than we think.
That's a beautiful way to say it. Your awareness has heightened about some of those things.
Right.
Because listen, all that is no division, the formless energy, essence of all things. So it's all connected.
Yeah.
It's all connected. The intelligence is in communication across the intelligence. There's no point in the intelligence that's not in there, right? So everything, a way to describe, we say, oh, synchronicity. Oh, how funny. I was thinking about my friend and walked across my friend. Well, because the consciousness of all of it is right there. But here's the thing. We don't need to beat ourselves up about it. It's like, remember from the beginning of our conversation, look, there's only so much I can take. Because part of this is I'm walking down the street. And you know what? There's like stuff on the ground. So I'm focused. Like I'm focused, right? So yeah, you are not aware of all, right? But sometimes, as you move in your own understanding or whatever, and you sort of like step back and look, suddenly your awareness broadens a little bit. And you kind of go, wait a minute. Look at that. Look at that. What happened? Look at what happened. And this is where we started the beginning of the conversation. Everything is miraculous. The whole thing is a miracle out there. And you're walking through with this like speck of it. And depending how you look at it, you're like, ooh, it's not going so well at all. Like that's just really going wrong right now. And it's like, step back and look at the miracle. Like look at the whole thing, right? So it's always synchronicity, always stuff going on. And at some point, if you're like happen to be on a roll with that sort of tuning to where that frequency is, suddenly you see it everywhere.
If you're not in your own way, like resisting it, it seems to be like that. Like, but I'm okay. Would you say then that that's a free will to step away from?
Oh, that's so good.
The content of the thinking, or the resistance, or the narrative that's going on, or the struggle, or the trying to figure out, or solving problems, or trying to figure out things all the time. I know so many people who are trying so much, and they look at me in Zanzibar, and I get, me too, I try a lot, I'm surprised by all of the people that come to me and say like, wow, you live this amazing lifestyle. And I'm like, do I? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, what, don't you? I mean, isn't this the same thing, the same trip, the same? I don't have it figured out. You know what I mean?
Right.
But would you say then that's because if I look at the quotes you post on Facebook from Abraham Hicks, she would be like, if the thought don't serve you, then don't waste more time on it, kind of thing. Yeah. And then it implies or presupposes that there is someone who has free will who can stop thinking about the things that they think about.
Let's pick that quote apart, right? If the thought doesn't serve you. So what did we say thought was? Thought is focused consciousness. We said thought. Sydney Banks, infinite intelligence, aware of itself. It's pure consciousness. Focused consciousness is thought. Because remember we said conscious of what? Conscious of a thing. Well, there is no thing. It's the energy of all things. So a thing is a focus of that awareness. That's all it
like
is.
You mean like a veil or like like
it
or
when you take your consciousness, if you focus consciousness, if
consciousness is focused, is it?
Then there's creation. Then there's creation. Imagine God. Imagine God, simply aware, simply conscious. If God focuses, that's the principle of thought.
That's manifesting in that.
That's manifesting. Now, let's play that out. This is how God creates. Sydney Banks tried to tell us divine thought. Divine thought. And he said that's different than you, personal thought, right?
Yeah.
So what's divine thought? That's God. Divine thought is unopposed. See, God is able to think without thinking against itself. God is able to focus and then not oppose its own thinking. So when God focuses its own consciousness and says, let there be light, light. Because when God thinks, nothing opposes God. God will never oppose its own thinking.
And just to be clear, when you say God, you obviously don't mean a subject. Some
this
separate
infinite
entity.
Intelligence, all that is. Switch the words around. The universe, right? So there's an aware infinite intelligence that can focus itself, and when it focuses itself, it does not send its energy back into the destruction of what it has now focused upon.
Yeah.
So listen, it's so much easier to say God, but it is not a person with a beard.
It's not a person with a beard, and sometimes it's useful to clarify because that word has strong interpretations. Like we could also say just unknown, or just unknown energy, or like outside of the intellect, or not even outside, but also both inside and outside. But
it just is. And you're right. Really, if it's all things, there is no inside and outside. It's always it, right? It's always it. And so this focus, so it is aware, and then focused means aware within itself. Like it's inside, right? A focus within itself. Right. So, but see, that's manifestation, that's creation.
Right.
And where does this thing exist? So he created this stuff, or it created this stuff. Where does it exist? It exists within itself. So God is, there is, this energy universe is all things, it is, and no thing. At the same time. At the same time. So it is no thing. It is the essence. And it is all things which appear, So, but we were getting to what you said around when you said thought or thinking.
And free will.
The Abraham Hicks quote. Abraham Hicks quote said you could
the reason I ask is because I know that listeners, or not everyone, but some listeners might be like, okay, so I need to manage my thinking then. I need to constantly think right, or not think wrong. And I think a lot of people walk around life and they suffer because they're constantly trying to think right when they are breezing the surface of what is really true. They've forgotten who they really are, and they've forgotten truth.
So, and then you use some words which I think are so important here. This idea of resistance and then free will, right?
Yeah.
Man, the debates, oh my God, the confusion around this free will thing is just crazy,
Even
right?
just within me, man.
Yeah. Well, but let's clear it up. Let's clear this up, right? What are we talking about? So, first of all, if you look at truth, that formless energy in expansion is pure freedom. In other words, there is no restriction of it. There's no holding of it. There is no boundary to it. It's pure freedom. Because what exactly would bound it? What exactly could limit it? So if you take all that is in an infinite expansion of more, becoming more of itself, becoming more of the potential within itself, becoming more of its own, of the possibility that it is, what would limit it? There would have to be something outside of it putting a wall up so that it could not expand in that direction. And the minute you say that, then you're no longer describing all that is. Now there's another thing you started to describe. So, very important. The nature of all that is pure freedom. If the nature of all that is free, then that freedom permeates every aspect of itself. Well, no, because it is free, but it has this little toenail part which is not free. It's restricted and bounded. It is not free then. There cannot be no speck of itself. There cannot be any aspect of all that is. There cannot be any part of consciousness that does not share in its nature. Nothing in the essence of God that has a different nature than God. There's only consciousness, and all share in its nature. Right? So your nature is freedom. Your nature is freedom. You are a consciousness that is free. Interesting. So I'm a consciousness that's free. Yes, Sydney Banks, you're a microscopic aspect of all that is. So we could parallel everything. You could parallel all of it. You have a mind. It's a personal mind.
Yeah.
So good. So that's my mind. My mind, right? It's like you have a mind the way my room here has space. This is my space. Is it? If you knock these walls out, it's just space. If you take these walls out, it's space. Yeah, but my space is different. It is? This is your space? This space is the same nature as all space. Once you put these walls up, you are simply using space. This personal mind that you have is not your mind. It is a use of mind. It is a focused use of mind. And further, there's no walls on it. It's even better than this space. There are no walls to it. It is simply a focus of that. And as the focus of that is, that means there is no boundary to any of it. So the personal mind has access to an infinite intelligence. You have an innate wisdom that is of all, right? Now, part of the deal, though, is if you're focused and using a personal mind, then you, in any moment of focus, you do not have this infinite intelligence showing up immediately here, but you have access to it. You are undivided from it. Now, you can now you can do the same thing. You have a mind, and that energy or space is conscious. What's it conscious of? It's conscious of itself. It is aware of itself. Because same nature, right? We're just replicating everything. This intelligence, it's you, it's your mind now. We went from mind to personal mind, and now that mind, personal mind, that aspect of consciousness is aware of itself, aware of itself. Same nature, right? That mind, your mind, so you have mind, which is conscious, and that has the same capacity to focus. It has a capacity to think, to focus. Same thing. And it can focus, and it's free. It's free consciousness with the capacity to focus. So you take Abraham, they said something about thought, and they said if you choose a thought or you focus here, and then you can choose somewhere else or something like that. So when they say that, they're saying you have the freedom to focus. You are a consciousness that is free to focus. They're speaking to your nature. They speak to your nature, that the nature of you is an awareness with the freedom to focus. And as you focus, that's thought. That is a focus. Now you are focused on a thing. You are focused on, and the thing being just a focus of consciousness. So this is what they're saying. And you say, well, free to focus. And you made a statement earlier that I think is important. It's like the true freedom you have is to, I'll say it later, maybe in more detail, but it's to allow the freedom of that consciousness or to resist it.
Yeah.
You are not a robot. You are not an automaton. You are not a thought in the mind of God, in the mind of this universe. You are not a thought imagined as carrying out the orders of the Creator. The Creator doesn't need you carrying out any orders. Doesn't need you at all. So you are imagined in the mind of God and share in its nature. You have been made in the image of the Creator. To be made in its image is you were made in its own imagination. And you share in its nature. And so you are mimicking, reflecting. An image is a true reflection. It's a true reflection of God. You are God, and you are not all that God is. You are God, and you are not all that God is. There are two perspectives. The you that you think you are, is not all that God is. You are God, and you will forever, eternally be far more than you can think. You will forever be more than you can ever imagine.
Ever believe.
Because all that you can think is a limitation of who you really are.
Right, because it's like you say, yeah, it's a focused, or it's a condensed version.
Focused.
It's a yeah.
And by the way, I'm glad you said that. It's not that all you can never think is a limitation of who you really are. Do you see how much lesser you are and how bad you are because you can't think all of that? It wasn't meant that. It's it's an explanation of the design. Essential to the design is that. Yeah. There is nothing wrong with that. But this gets back to, but what is this about? Like, what is this? How'd you show up here, and what's the point of all of this? Yeah. Well, you're essential. Now I'm talking about you, this little perspective. You
The
are
action figure.
essential. Yeah. You are essential to the expansion of all that is. Were it not for you and me, well, let's logically say a few things. A few things. This is kind of like, get your head around this, right? Were it not for you and I, all that is would be less than all that it is. Now that's obvious, because if we are an aspect of all that is, and you were to remove it, now all that is less than it was, right?
Right.
Which can't be. So,
Exactly.
so were it not for you and I, all that is would be less than all that it is. So we're essential to it, but we are essential to the expansion. Why? You said desire that you feel. And what I said in the desire that you feel, what it is, the desire that you feel is all that is focused. The desire is felt only from the finite perspective. You're the one who feels desire. Mm-hmm. And what you feel is the knowing of who you are. What you feel is the knowing of who you really are.
Which is expansive.
Yes. Bumped up against who you think you are. This is what you're feeling. You cannot put those two things together. You cannot know who you are bumped up against this who you think you are, who you have focused as, without a force, an energy, a power that moves outward. What you feel as desire is the desire of all that is to express more of itself, to express all of itself through this thought.
Right.
That's what you feel. You are essential to the expansion of all that is. Watch what happens when you expand. As you allow the expansion, this speck of consciousness becomes more.
Yeah.
So now picture 8 billion specks of all that is, trillions, right? That speck becomes more conscious of itself. Suddenly, all that is just became more of itself.
Amazing.
Follow? Yeah. This is the beauty in this design. This is what's so beautiful, and we feel it within us. And, people throughout history and all these spiritualities and all that told stories to try to describe all this. Right?
Yeah.
And I just told a story too. Mine's just a story.
And here's another one, because this reminds me of I guess one of my more interesting spiritual experience I've had, and I don't know how it started. There was no start. So imagine no start, whatever that looks or doesn't look like, and then and then there was nothing, and as soon as there was nothing, then the concept of nothing was there. So then immediately there's now the concept of nothing and the observer of the concept of nothing, and then immediately that became dual, became two, became some thing, right? So and then immediately one part penetrated the other one, and it kind of grew or expanded in Fibonacci sequence. It folded up in and became me, personal me, and the room that I was in, and the whole world.
Right. Beautiful.
And it just matches. It just made sense for me to tell that story right now, because
Right.
It just matches what you say. And I was actually, personal me, I was petrified after. Well, it was curious and didn't feel much, etc., etc. But after a few hours, when time came back and etc., etc., I started getting um, worried and scared of the world, and I made separation, and I was like, but really, that experience have stuck with me because, yeah.
Wow. What a powerful story. It was so, and by the way, and we all like, so, you know, my now, if we hear now, say my narration of the story, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
So I'll narrate the story is like, I love how you said it didn't start. It's just, there was nothing, right?
yeah.
So some way, somehow, right? Because this happened, you were alive and focused, right? You were alive and focused. But so some way, somehow, it's almost like there was this moment of disappearance.
Yeah,
This
and
moment.
you know what's crazy? I can't even tell how old I was. It's somewhere between 25 and 30, I think.
Right.
It's
So in other words,
sounds like I'm crazy. Yeah.
but somewhere in that, because again, it's like almost like the way we were like in focusing consciousness, right? Somewhere in there, there's like an interruption, right? Or it's just of the thought, the thinking, right? Okay. So, and in that moment, as you said, like just the best you can tell is, and there was
Words.
nothing,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So there was nothing. So when there is nothing, when there is no thing, that is the possibility of all things. When there is no thing, we're now in the possibility of everything. We're now in the possibility of everything. And then, in an instant, you came back. So you touched it, went to, you know, Sydney Banks tells a story like that too, right? Around he suddenly he was there, right?
Okay.
So it's like somehow something got interrupted, and where it was from this perspective, like just like a real seeing of no thing, seeing of which is the truth of it, like the who you really are, no thing, which is the possibility from which all things arise and express. And so you got it for an instant, who you really are. And then, I mean, unless you were going to drop this physical body, there was an immediate refocus.
Yeah, a re-identification, kind of, yeah.
Well, otherwise you'd have to leave this behind. By the way, if you did leave this behind, you would go on to be no thing. See you later, no stories to tell, and you couldn't share any of this, right?
Right.
So if you intend to play with us, you would need to refocus. Otherwise, don't talk to us because you can't. So because we're all here in our game. We were no thing. We are focused here in a focus. And there's a lot of agreement here. There's a lot of consensus focus here. We focus in similar ways. And by the way, and when the new ones come, we train them, condition them to focus.
to do focus and be and be within that paradigm of consensus. Yeah.
It's very important because they're annoying to play with. They're disruptive unless they get in the game with us, the game and the what's going on here. So what happens is the new ones come. They are immediately conditioned. We teach them what it's like, and we tell them what it's like, and we tell them what happened in our history. And we tell them who's on our side and who's not. So we have them and we tell them how to think. And by the way, in all that stuff that we learned, we learn to keep ourselves safe. And so that we can, do you see how crazy this is? And then they come out of nothing. They come brand new. But it's like, this isn't a bad thing, but this is the evolution of all that is.
Right. Yeah.
In the end, we don't get them fully. We can't chain them fully because more come and more come and more come. And the problem is that those of us who keep conditioning them die off.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we die off, and the fresh ones keep coming, and we die off, and the fresh ones keep coming.
So in a
and there is an
scale,
expansion of all that is. Yeah. And so suddenly they begin to move from a place of it's right to have slaves. It's actually proper. And there are human beings that are less than others. And the new ones come and the new ones come and the new ones come. And we try to get them to keep thinking it, but they refuse to keep thinking because they come from pure possibility and freedom. And then we can't convince them anymore. And then eventually the old ones die off. With those thoughts. And suddenly those thoughts, which are thoughts of resistance and insecurity and fear that created such a thing in the world. God did not create that crap. God did not create that crap. We created the crap. That crap is a manifestation of our own resistance, showing us what our mind has. That's what the war is. That's what slavery was. That's what Holocaust is. It's a reflection of the thinking that we're holding, the thinking that we held, reflecting into the world so that we could experience it. As you think, this consciousness says, is this what you think? Is this what you think? Is this what you think? And you go, that's horrible. Well, this is what you think. This is what you think. And you are free to think anything. Is this what you're thinking? Is this what you're thinking? And it just keeps coming back at you. And you're like, but I don't like this. I don't like this. That's why you are free. You are free to think anything. Well, but I'm not free to think anything because my parents told me that this is the way to think. And you are free to think that. And by the way, when you think that, when you think what your parents said, this is what it looks like. Do you like it? This is what it looks like. Do you like it? Oh, but my race said this is what I think. But my country said this is what I think. But you thought it. You're thinking it now. They told you when you were 12 and you're thinking it now. And you are free to think anything. Do you like what you're thinking? This is what it's like. This is what it's like. Do you like it? You can hold on to it. You can insist on it. God cannot, no one, nothing can force you to let go of it. You are free. You are free to hold it or free to let go of it. But when you hold it, you suffer. And when you let go of it, you are free. So do what you wish. That's free will.
Wow.
That's free will. It's not free will. I can't. My parents told me that. My parents, how old were you when your parents told you that? You were 3. I'm talking about you right now. Right now you are thinking that thought.
But
do you know how much? You know how much stuff?
Are you then pointing to the personal you or you?
Well, it's your focused thought of who you are. It's the thinking of who you are is who I'm pointing to. That's the only one in resistance.
Right.
All that you are is resisting nothing. All that you are, it's all fine.
Yeah. Exactly.
And all that you are is in the middle of everything that you are in, looking at everything that you are looking at, experiencing all that you are experiencing.
Right.
And when all that you are sees that war, all that you are feels only love. All that you are has only understanding. All that you are does not love them and hate them. All that you are only loves and only understands. All that you are understands how you could be, how you could get yourself into such a state as to throw bombs on these ones. All that you are only has understanding of the innocent misunderstanding of the use of your own consciousness, focused in such a way that it would make sense to you to create bombs and put them onto these ones. All that you are has only understanding. You took the creative power of the universe and were able to somehow focus it in such a way as to perceive a fear and a separation on the other side. It's plausible. It's easy. It's easy to do that. And that's the freedom that you have. You have the freedom to do that. But here's the thing. You cannot do that without feeling the pain of it. In other words, in every moment that you move away from the truth of who you are, it will not feel good. If you were in a total alignment, if you thought as God, you would be in the frequency of that energy. The descriptors of that energy, the descriptors of that feeling of that kind of an energy. It's a very high frequency energy, the creative energy. If you were in harmony with that energy, people would describe that as love, peace, joy, bliss. Now you are in pure flow, pure allowing of that energy. When you take that energy and focus and you turn it against yourself, I'm small, I'm little, and there's threats to me, right? You begin to tell a lie. A lie. And why that's a lie is, it is not true. It is not true that there is anything within all that is a threat to all that is. It's just not true. There's nothing within all that is not one with all that is. So when any aspect of all that is begins to focus itself in a way as to think that there is a threat to itself, it's begun to focus in a way that's not true.
Yeah.
And as you do that, you will feel yourself drifting off peace, love, joy, bliss, pure clarity and knowing. Yeah. There's the hint that you are moving in a direction against yourself.
Yeah. 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 And it can, And it's beautiful when it's noticed, when we track off and then we catch it, and then wisdom comes immediately and tells us to, I don't know, take a walk or
right,
shift what we're doing, or some kind of common sense thing in the daily life, and it works because it comes from a remembrance of what we're pointing to here.
In all cases, it's always the same thing that happens. Is like take a walk, go for a swim. Right? Always the same thing that happens is somehow, through some way, there's a letting go. Just for a moment. Just for a moment. Just because you're on a bike and you're riding, and you know what it is? You're on a bike and you're riding, and it's taking so much focus because it's treacherous, the terrain. So here's the deal. You cannot focus in two places.
Right. You cannot be busy-minded and focused at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
So once you're there, you necessarily must let go here in order to be here.
Interesting.
And in the letting go, suddenly there's a relief. Now there's space.
Yeah.
Now there's an opening. And what's the opening to? Here's the thing. If you are not focused on a personal thought, the reason I say it's a personal thought is The reason I say it's a personal thought is because it's a thought that says there's a threat. It's a thought that is of fear. It's a thought of anger or insecurity. The reason I say it's a personal thought is because the divine mind could never think a thought against itself. It cannot use consciousness in opposition to itself. So it cannot oppose. So the moment you drift and now you release because of your focus, you now have stopped this creative energy of fighting yourself, this creative energy of hurting yourself. Immediately you feel relief. But here's the thing. If you are not thinking, and in order to be human and alive and living, there is thought flowing. There is thought flowing. If you are not thinking, then what thought remains? It's the thought of source. It's the thought of wisdom. It's the thought of infinite intelligence. If you're not thinking, then what the consciousness remaining is pure. If you're not thinking, if you're not holding, if you're not there on that, to be alive is to think. To be alive is to be focused. To be alive, that's the breathing you feel is consciousness flowing through you. So to be alive is to be focused like that. Be unfocused, you won't be alive. You will be all that is. You want to get there fast? Just be unfocused. You will be all that is, no longer alive. You intend to be alive, then it's focus. So when you let go, it feels like relief, why is because you let go, and when you let go, what remains is that pure consciousness, that divine, that infinite intelligence, that wisdom. That wisdom now comes through. Now there's space.
It's amazing.
And easy. And easy. Effortless.
Effortless, yes. It reminds me of when my new MacBook were stolen. Someone had looked at me while the sun went down, so I went inside to take a quick piss, and I came back and someone snatched it, and it was like a $4,300 MacBook that I bought like just a few months before, and my travel insurance had went 4 days before. It was like it sucked so much, you know. And then I got stressed and worried and angry, and I started looking for him, and I got all my friends to look for the thief, and then actually relatively fast I'm proud, or I'm taking personal responsibility for it, but it's not really me. But it was like, I'm amazed at how fast it happened. But just like within less than half an hour, there was an insight that I'm doing this to myself. I'm engaging in all this shitty thinking about how shit it is that I lost my MacBook. But there was a secret part of me, or like Alan Watts say, like, you will never have something in your life that you don't really want. It's like there was a secret. There was a tiny part of me that was screaming that I wanted to spend less time in front of the computer and more time in nature and building, because I was in Zanzibar, and like just being engaged and on the beach and playing football and like living life, you know. And now, well, you know, my laptop got stolen, so I guess I got what I wanted in a way. But there was just this split second where there was this release of this anger. It was like I was really, really angry, and I felt like this, you know, sometimes when you're angry, you feel like you are, what's the English word again? Like someone owes you something, or you're entitled. And it's like you hold on to that anger and you feel like this is important, and, you know, everything is unfair, and like all those like identification, contraction, it's all in the body and the personal mind, right? And it's all like there's blame and there's all these frustration, and then it came like from the side, like hold on, you can just like not give a fuck and just let that go, and just let's see now, Morten. Let's test out, is it possible to be happy right now, or is it possible to tune into that, to just pure bliss right now? And then it just happened even before I could phantom it or conceptualize it. It was just like, and then I felt kind of embarrassed and silly of like the fast transition, and then just like, what was that, and then when people, and then I guess there's some habitual thoughts, or like there's some like echo of it or something, that when other people, or my peers and friends, family, I told a story about it, I felt like I had to, there's a certain part of me was like, well, that's obviously horrible, and I have to tell that was a shitty thing. And it was like, I lost my Mac, you know what I mean? And but that also shifted relatively fast, that I that I didn't really regurgitate that old pattern of thinking of that being a horrible thing, but rather it just happened. And it's really fascinating.
Right. That's a great, I like how you looked in the story, or suddenly maybe saw, like, it was really interesting how you noticed, boy, I wonder if I wanted that, like an intention, right? Right? It's interesting to go there, right? It's curiosity. This, again, if intelligence is all connected, you take this intelligence is all connected. So there are no accidents. That was not an accident. That was not a surprise. People listening to this are like, you guys are crazy. What do you mean? That was a total, like, out of the blue. No, it wasn't. You were perfectly matched to it. The thief and the victim, right? Perfectly matched. Perfectly matched. You're meeting on the same frequency, the same vibration. There's not one without the other. It is a matching. Well, this is crazy. So what are you saying? It's like nuts that this could be like this. Your true intention, the true you, that continues to expand in a way that is always in alignment with who you really are, is an energy of expansion that will only move by the path of least resistance. It's like water that flows. There's a boulder in the way, it will move around the boulder, but it will only move in a direction. Your energy, that is you, is moving only in one direction, in the becoming more of all that it is through you. It's the only direction it's going. It becomes more of itself through you. By the way, the details of the way that it becomes, just so we don't start to separate off as if there was something that predestines you, like a predestination of you, those details are all your details. As that focuses into your life, specifics of where you were born and what's going on and what you prefer and don't prefer are a refinement of possibilities that would never occur in any other life anywhere. It's your life. So the expansion of this consciousness is unique to you. So in other words, the expansion of it is unique to you. It is we could describe as your true desire. That is your true desire. And the more you live your life of what you don't like and what you hate and what pisses you off in that relationship and this business and that thing, it is a continual refinement of what is your true desire. That true desire continues to get more detailed and discerned and fleshed out uniquely through you. So this calling you feel, the calling of that desire wanting expression through you is leading you by the path of least resistance. So here you were was it in Zanzibar that this happened?
Yeah.
Hey, look at this. You're in Zanzibar with true desire and true desire about what's really wanted. And you're screwing around working on a MacBook.
Yeah.
So sometimes, right, the path of least resistance is to get rid of that thing. And when your intention and desire is strong enough, it will happen. It will happen. The true desire will overcome anything in its way, will literally go around it, make it irrelevant. So, because when you are in harmony with the true desire, then you are inspired by it. You are inspired from it. You may make choices, for example, out of the inspiration of packing the MacBook away, only going to open it on certain times or whatever. You will be inspired to a way of living which is in harmony with true desire. But when you don't and you start to deviate, Abraham will say like this: you have hints. So the moment you start to move off true desire with some thought, like whatever, get distracted on this, or this is more fun than that, or whatever bullshit thinking we have, right? You deviate without feeling it. Okay? Spin away from the pure alignment. You will feel it. Abraham will, and then if you say, but I don't know, I didn't notice. I mean, I was fine. I was mostly focused, but right? So it just means you can't discern the deviation, right? So Abraham says, if you can't tell the vibrational shift, don't worry, it'll get worse. Don't worry, it'll get worse. So then it'll get worse. Now you're going to spend more time on it. It'll get worse. All of it is going to give you the hints of you gotta go to what feels better. You gotta go back to true intention. But meanwhile, you're sucked in more and more doing work, right? Yeah, so you don't pick up the discernment. And Abraham says, oh, don't worry, it'll get worse. Because you will move in the direction of disharmony. And there's a momentum Abraham calls law of attraction that will continue to move a momentum and create a force in the direction of disharmony. Faster and faster and more in a wake up.
Until
wake up.
Yeah.
Right. And when you don't wake up, then you're not gonna like the manifestation.
Yes. That's so true. Yeah. It's so obvious too.
But it is what you want. It is what you want.
Yeah. Weirdly. The true desire, yeah. Otherwise it wouldn't be.
True desire. And it's funny, we started, Green Room before coming on. We started with the conversation about Jenny and Dave and the baby, and how I love the fact that
beautiful
they shared
way
the
to
story.
Round. Oh, yeah.
Right? They shared the story. And there they were, and so many desires in the mix. True desires.
Yeah.
So many desires. Like Jenny with the desire and Dave with the desire of a natural birth and, a particular way. And there's such a strong desire to provide a welcome and an entry for a baby into this world. And so there really a lot of attention to the detail and all that. And then there's also the true desire of the consciousness that is coming. Consciousness that is coming into a body, into this baby, and coming into form. True desire, lots of intentions. We're here playing with each other in many intentions. So I had a particular way it would go and a particular thing. And then there was a problem. Seemingly, right? There's a particular way this was all working. The baby was pointed the wrong way, the whole thing. They didn't know about it. But the baby wouldn't come.
2 weeks over,
baby would
right?
not come.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? It's like, but it's not coming. And now it's a week past due. It's 2 weeks past due. And this baby's not coming. Yeah, because the true desire of all involved for the highest good, all involved for the highest good is a wisdom that is leading towards something. So they went and did some testing.
And then we have all of these personal interpretations and desires and ways that we think we want it to go, but there's a, like you say, a true desire, a bigger picture to it.
And here's the thing though, and it is your true desire. This is not some desire that someone has assigned to you. It's your true desire. All that is focused as you with the true desire of expansion. So there is your true desire, and you are not always aware of your true desire. Sometimes you are sucked into other thinking that says, what I want is more money. But why do you want more money? Because if I had more money, I could do what I want, and then I would feel free. But you are free and can do what you want. No, I'm not, because I don't have more money and I want more money. And we say, that's not a true desire. That's bullshit thinking. That's like some reaction to this, right? So I want this in order for that. You don't know who you are. You don't know who you are. If you knew who you are, you wouldn't waste your time with this. You want to be free, and you want to do what you want to do, and you want to engage in this and that, and that's the true desire. Now do it. Yeah, but I can't do it unless I have money. Oh my God, you really think that infinite intelligence coming here with that desire, you having this desire, and it created the freaking universe, and it can't do what it wants to do because the money isn't there? It can get the money if it needs the money. It's infinite intelligence. If money is needed, money will come. This isn't complicated. It created solar systems. It's complicated only for you in the finite mind. Let go of that bullshit, because the infinite intelligence has the whole thing laid out. If you would allow it, it would reveal itself to you.
It's almost like there's a channel, but hold on, I'm just gonna build like a labyrinth here for the channel, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful, Dominic, man. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, what an amazing conversation.
Definitely. This has been a kickstart of I guess part 2 of the New Paradigm podcast. I love this. It's been a blessing talking to you, and I've written down, I wrote allow myself is something that I wrote down that I wanted to share. And then I wrote down, our true desire is this. And this is it. And it's been lovely, man. I don't know what to say other than thank you. And
me too. Thank you. We have not had the opportunity to really like engage like this, and I really appreciate that opportunity. Thanks.
Thanks
for setting it up. And
I love how you give like new words to me in a way, or like your vocabulary, particularly the word focus, has given me a new meaning now, which is very, very cool. You know, and I think the listeners also will appreciate that. And for the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and you know, subscribe. Where to do that? I guess on my YouTube channel, on my website, mortenhake.com, and go to Dominic's website, Dominic Scaffidi.com.
Yeah, just my name.com. Yeah.
And
fantastic.
We love you, and thank you again.
Thank you. All right. This has been fun. Thanks so much.
This was the Paradigm Shift podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please share it on your Facebook. If not, then please don't.